Well, all right. It's help and wholeness. Greetings and salutations. Kundalini rising, grand rising. What's happening? Yeah, Master Ashep here. Your soul healer, comedic metaphysical warrior priest, B.O.L.T initiate, chief practitioner, founder of Soul Healer, founder of Sons of Light Healing, better known as Soul Healing. So, nonetheless, I'm the more at your service. And here to share just briefly on basic chakra healing. Basic chakra healing. So, and what does that look like and what is it all about? So, just a little bit of insight about my person, the person before you, this being. They're all the same, just that for this particular being, it chooses to use the word its person or speak about the person versus I. And we'll get into that a little bit later as we talk about the energy system. Just know that my person, when my person say my person, it is referring to the one who is speaking now. So there you go. And with that, just to give a little more insight of just who I am, dig this. You won't know who I am from what you perceive. But if you listen when we speak, then you will receive a glimpse of who I am. And then you'll believe and have a life of peace because your soul is at ease. You see, my source is the essence which this world is conceived, which means that I was here before the birds and the bees. Now, if you haven't guessed, I am eternity. But now, if you have guessed and you've guessed correctly, that simply means we share the same destiny to realize we are the God and Trinity that is talked about in Christianity. Now, some will say that that's vanity or go as far as insanity. That's because they believe in Western theology. But as for we, you see, we choose ancient Kemetic philosophy. Not to say that's the only path to immortality, but that's the path for we, this life, you see, as we devote our life to helping others be free, so they in turn can reach their full divinity. And this is done because of the he and the I and he. Peace. All right, and with that, just get right off into it. What are chakras? And we want to just make sure the comment side is up, just in case there are any comments. We can be sure to answer those in real time. So, what are chakras? Basically, energy centers, plain and simple. A chakra is nothing more, nothing less, generally speaking, than an energy center. In fact, generally speaking, that's what that word means in Sanskrit, chakra, or, energy wheel or energy center, right? And basically, the energy is so subtle that the machines that the doctors and the scientists use really aren't able to detect it with these machines. However, through our own experiences, through the ages, there have been enough experience to kind of give testimonial credence that there are certain energy centers located within our physical body that does wonderful things, right? So exactly what do these chakras do? Well, and this is from my person's perspective. Again, the general information is their energy centers, and there are seven major, generally speaking, that line the spine, starting with the base, where we sit down on the tailbone, and the seventh one will be the soft spot at the head. The idea was to have a diagram or two. However, that seemed to be a little technical challenging, especially towards the last minute, as we say. So my person would do its best to give a visual demonstration or visualize, speak descriptive enough to give visuals so that you can have a visual of what's happening really. And speaking of visual, as my person keeps going here, this is what would be considered the area of the sixth chakra or the brow chakra. So we have 7 coming down, 7, 6, 5 at the throat, 4 at the heart center, 3 just below the indentation of the rib cage, the solar plexus, 2 just below the navel, this sacral, and again, the root chakra, the tailbone. So but the question is, more importantly, what do they do? I mean, how can we use this information, first of all, what they are, to facilitate like health, healing, optimal health, magic, as my person like to look at it, because they can be looked at as our magic centers as well. Okay, so basically, and just to give a quick insight on how this came to head for my person, as we say, it didn't start off like this. Experienced traumas growing up, wanted to get away. And it wasn't until 1993, roughly, just wanting to get back into the church, become a man of God, reading the Bible, have this extreme personality, and was reading about Enoch and Elijah, a couple of prophets in the Bible. Scripture says that they did not die. And so in 93, it was the idea of, hey, God, how not to die, how not to die. And because of that desire of not wanting to die, just to ascend, as some may consider it, ascension, my person became aware of our energy system of the body. And generally speaking, aside from the 7 major chakras that we're going to talk about today, we also have 12 what we call energy or organ meridians in the body, as well as roughly 365, in a lot of different traditions and modalities, 365 acupoints. Now, acupoints would be considered these points along the meridians of the body. And basically the meridians are energy channels from head to toe. The same as we have blood vessels from head to toe, we have energy channels from head to toe. And again, along those energy channels from head to toe, there are these points, generally called acupoints, because they can be reached, manipulated, stimulated, facilitate healing and things like this through either acupressure or acupuncture. And the difference is the acupressure is more or less applying pressure to these centers using your hand, usually thumbs or fingers. And the acupuncture is where the needles. So there's a chance you can get a lot more points with the needles than with the thumbs. Nonetheless, acupressure and acupuncture are 2 healing modalities that will be considered maybe alternative healing practices. I'm gonna give a shout out to our brother, Dr. Kokai Patterson, here in the DMV, Washington, D.C. area, the DMV, who has been holding it down for decades on acupuncture. And just about that brother specifically is more so with the ears. As we transition and give you more insight to how important these energy centers are, acupuncture, with the needles, what Dr. Kakai does, can be done with the ears. Again, with the ears, there's this thing called reflexology. Some of you may be familiar with reflexology as it pertains to the feet. It's almost like a foot massage. However, those who are skilled in energy centers, acupressure is actually performing acupressure on the soles of the feet, because the soles of the feet, the palms of the hand, and with the ear, around the ear. All 3 of these body parts can be considered reflexology body parts, meaning that the entire body, any part of the body can be facilitated, manipulated with the palms of the hands, the soles of the feet, and with the ears. And again, acupressure, acupuncture, kind of two extremes. The acupressure would be like reflexology in the feet or the hand. Acupuncture could be throughout the body with the needles, or specifically with the ears. So again, someone's at the door. Yo! Sorry about that. Apologize. Didn't know what was happening there. We are live. So I guess wait one maybe. Guys outside cutting grass. I don't know what. Hold on one second.
What's your name, bro?
Master Ashep. Here, Soul Hill.
Shakur?
No, what's? Oh yeah. So,
Right here?
Yeah.
That's you?
No, that's next door.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry, that's what I was trying to
Right.
figure out. So
Yeah.
it's a block two?
Right.
Block two?
Right.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah. Apologize for that. You know, we all live, and there was a knock at the door. The brother wanted clarity on where to deliver the package to. It was a big box, so like right address, wrong name, some kind of confusion. Nonetheless, something more. We are back. It was a good time to take a sip of water, as a matter of fact. Reset and rebalance. Again, back to basic chakra healing. So again, what does all this have to do with chakra healing? Again, these energy centers, these points along these meridians, along with the 7 chakras, which generally makes up our energy system. And this energy system my person is referring to is connected, associated with the endocrine system, which is our system of glands and organs that act like glands, such as kidneys, liver, pancreas. So, and the other glands would be like reproductive, ovaries, testes, thyroid, pineal, pituitary, so hypothalamus. And so what happens is, again, the way our chakras, these energy centers work, along with our energy system, generally speaking, is that these 7 major chakras have an association with a certain aspect of our being, right? And for example, with the root chakra, the color associated with the root chakra is generally associated with red. In fact, it is the same color system as the Roy G. Biv, which is the acronym for, also on the wall behind here, red, starting from the bottom, red, orange, yellow, green, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. So those 7 colors of the rainbow, prism colors as well, can be looked at again energetically as there's one light. And when that one light, clear light, bright light, is broken down into the prism, is broken down into 7 colors of the rainbow. You know, on a rainy day, because of the rain, the water acts like a prism. So you can see the rainbow, 7 colors. Again, those 7 colors have an association with the 7 chakras within our being. That's a correlation there. And those 7 chakras have a correlation, again, that's association with our endocrine system. And so, for example, with the kidneys, which would be the root chakra, the organs or glands that associate with the root chakra would be kidneys, and reproductive, testes, ovaries. And there is kind of an overlap between that and the second chakra, the sacral, which would be the orange, which would be the spleen area. The spleen would be an organ, gland. Again, there's an overlap with the reproductive areas as well, especially with the womb and the creativity, and of course with the seeds, testicles, and giving birth. Nonetheless, there are correlations with our glands and organs and our chakra system. And so this is how we can begin to have an association or have an understanding of how that these chakras, these energy centers that we can't really see, more so we can feel if we're sensitive enough. And if we can't feel them today, by cultivating a lifestyle of relaxing, being peaceful, going within, meditation, qigong, all these things, we can cultivate, we'll become more aware of these energy centers within our being, which can help facilitate the healing process. Because ideally, from my person's perspective, as a holding the vibration, metaphysics, speaking about metaphysics, beyond the physical, we look to approach healing from the unseen, which can be looked at as more the causal plane. We look at cause and effect. There's a cause for every effect. And so if we have a basic understanding that these energy centers, these are the energy centers, they act like maybe black holes in a sense, and there's also theories that all of these body masses have at the center a black hole, such as the sun, the earth, and even us humans within the the center of our being. This theory is that there's a black hole, there's a core. And it would sort of make sense if at the core of the atom, the nucleus is a black hole and the electron is a black hole. So as the black hole is at the center, as they say, out of darkness came light. And the black hole is a darkness, yet at some point was called the event horizon, because the black hole can't suck in every light, otherwise there would be no light. So at some point light comes out, and that point the event horizon. So that's a whole nother rabbit hole, as they say. But just giving the analogy of how these chakras can be looked at as this type of energy center, like black hole or energy centers, where they emit and receive subtle frequencies, right? Which comes into our thoughts and our feelings. Again, this is how our energy system ties in again with our healing. For example, more specifically, with the kidneys, the emotion of fear, there's an association with the emotion of fear with our kidneys. And from the first 5 chakras coming up, starting with the root being 1, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, up to the throat chakra, the blue. There's generally 5 major lower vibrating emotions that's associated with them, which would be, again, my person mentioned the fear with the root chakra. And then there's the worry with the sacral or second chakra. Third chakra, the solar plexus, right? Just above the navel, below the indentation of the rib. Solar plexus, that sun. Anger, liver is the organ. Of course, the heart is the heart chakra, heart organ. The throat chakra. Oh, and sadness with the lungs. And grief and sorrow. Sadness with the heart, and grief and sorrow with the lungs. And again, this is just basic general information, which can be pretty much Googled, emotions and chakras, things like that. So just again, laying the foundation before later on we speak about specific things to do that will bring harmony and balance to these energy centers. Again, once you kind of get an idea of how they work and what they do, what they're all about. Again, they're just like our a computer or antenna. Our brain, for example, would be like the brain is generally the mechanism that interprets the interpretation from these chakras. Again, how does that work? Let's talk about fear, right? If we are afraid, it's like, oh no. And generally, one of the things with fear, for example, or rather the root chakra, basic survival, food, clothing, shelter. Do you feel protected? Food, clothing, shelter, and also love, like love from your parents. Maybe if you get that love, if you're being fed, and it's all these things, then generally fear doesn't really take hold as much. We maybe can learn some things, but it's not there. However, growing up, if this is what we call the traumatic fear, because it may be ingrained like at an early age, like before we able to comprehend really, if our situation is there's lack, that can promote this, like ingrained, like trained, like a wiring of always, have this lack, this fear, and it's going to be enough because that's all that we know. For example, if that's the way we were wired, again, that would be a root chakra kind of functioning. And what would happen is the kidneys would be taxed. So, the dialysis machine, kidney failure, needing a kidney because of fear. And of course, well, before the kidneys would fail, then there would be the indicating, like knee trouble, knee issues, lower back pain, right? And so basically, what happens from a metaphysical or from a causal perspective, as we're speaking about chakras and how they work, right? These energy centers. If our physical body, which is energy as well, if our physical body is experiencing any discomfort, disease, unless, we fall and break our arm or break our wrist or something, that's a different type of pain, physical pain. But if we begin to slowly, be aware of certain stiffness or, a pain, a subtle pain or discomfort. Saying, that's different, and then over time, that discomfort may build up to become pain, maybe even chronic pain or chronic stiffness. So what may be an indication is that the way we're perceiving reality, right? The way we're thinking about it, our perspective, our perceptive and our perspective, right? Perceptive, what we perceive, what we see, and our perspective, how we feel about what we see, right, will determine, generally speaking, if there will be discomfort in this physical body or there will be comfort in this physical body. If there will be dis-ease or ease, you see, if it would be unpleasant or pleasant. Why? Because again, what happens is as we are perceiving, as we're looking at, as we're sensing with our senses, all 5, 6, at least, generally speaking, again, if we say, oh, that's not right, you shouldn't do that. Or for example, anger, let's deal with anger because anger, we can work with all of them, but just, for example purposes, let's say anger, because it would seem as though anger is probably the one that's most seen in society, as my person like to say, is kind of trumped up. The energies are trumped up. They've been trumped up for a while. And so it's just a lot of anger. And generally, my person like to look at anger is that we feel a certain way about how someone else is exercising their free will, about how someone else chooses to do a certain thing, generally speaking. Now, this is directly with us, that's one thing, it's like fight or flight. If it's a lion coming or, hey, it's right here. But if we're just having a thought conversation and we say, those people, whoever those people are, or this group, or even the government, whoever it may be, if we start talking about these people, places, or things, right, that's not right here, and we start feeling a certain way about these people, places, or things that are not right here, then that's an indication of mild anger, you see, because we can have a conversation about it, and more so in its proper alignment. The anger would not be, oh, they doing this, we gotta stop them, or what we gonna do to prevent change them, stop them. Whereas a more harmonious perspective would be, wow, man, that's really jacked up. So we got to do something, If that's what you want to do, fine. So we need to create something that we want, that we happy with. In other words, taking the focus off what someone else is doing, why you, and putting the focus on self and saying, what could I do? And so that energy of anger, instead of it becomes passion Third chakra, that passion, that drive, that willpower. It becomes, man, make this happen. And before you know it, a Fortune 500 company or self-employment, your own business, grassroots, your community efforts, whatever it is that you're looking to accomplish, you will find it becoming easier because the energy to manifest it, the energy of the sun, solar plexus, that energy of the sun is shining down upon to assist with that manifestation. So again, this is just kind of an example of a way of saying, how can we use anger or the energy of that third chakra, that third energy center, in a more harmonious way? It'd be anger and aggression, and the aggression in a more so-called negative way would be the anger. The aggression in the more so the positive way would be more so that passion for one's destiny, purpose, things like that. So that's basically what's happening with that. And of course, feel free, any questions of what's happening, comments. Again, that's just basic general information about the chakras, what they are, how they work. They just, what we think about and how we feel. Our chakras, they go out there, they feel some energies. We're not always aware because it's some subconscious, as they say. It's a lot of times the subconscious, we're not aware of it. The programmers, these things like this. So what can we do then to assist with bringing these energy centers into a more harmonious alignment, a more harmonious vibration? What would that look like? What would that mean? Why would we want to do that? First of all, why would we want to harmonize, align, so-called heal these energy centers? What would be the purpose of that? Good question, huh? Well, for those who have heard of the word aura, the term aura, A-U-R-A, generally speaking, aura would be the combination of all of our energy centers. What does that look like? It was like maybe a tie-dye, a tie-dye, if you remember the tie-dye, or just a painting with different colors, or if you can imagine the painting on the wall here, it's more straight, you can see the distinct colors, but imagine them more so if you take your hand while it was still wet and just kind of maybe smear them a little bit, so they kind of blurred all off in there. So you may get maybe certain areas concentration of higher blues, some areas may be, maybe a little bit of red over here, a little here, a lot of yellow up here, a little yellow over here. So it's just all in a way that those 7 colors would create this energetic portrait or vibrational portrait. That's generally what the aura is. It's like, however these chakras are vibrating, whatever harmony, whatever disposition, you see, if they're, harmonizing and like, oh man, feeling good. Or if they're in disharmony, like, man, don't feel good today, what's going on? Then our aura will show that. And there are some people who actually can see auras, and their classes, workshops, YouTube, that, talk about books even, on training oneself to see auras. So again, what the aura has to do? Well, for those of us who heard of this story, this brother named Yeshua, Jesus the Christ, and the story that he may have had a halo. You see a halo. So does the Buddha. Even the images, sometimes there's a halo around the Buddha or Christ, either around his head or even encompasses more of his body. And what that symbolizes, all these 7 chakras, the 7 colors of the rainbow, are harmonized to the point where they're back to one. It's unison. So it's just one light. So the light isn't fractured. It's not scattered. It's not Roy G. Biv per se. It is one light. Oneness, wholeness, singularity. And so the theory is that Yeshua, Jesus the Christ, came to remind us of aligning our chakras in a sense. You know, the seven seals, the stairway to heavens, Jacob's ladder, the seven churches. You know, there's so many different correlations and revelations that can be associated with enlightenment, the halo, and becoming one. So again, that's just more on the higher end, the higher perspective on what would that look like? You know, being another Jesus, as he said, greater things shall you do, ye are gods. What would that look like? Yet, as we, you know, scale down our ambitions, our vision just a little bit, because again, that's infinite possibilities. So aside from that, just from the perspective of, as we like to say these days, or some of us, getting our, how do we get our mind to mind? You know, some people call it a monkey mind or a monkey brain, as in can't stop thinking, you know, as in these distractions are here, don't want to be distracted, know what's distracting, but it's a challenge not to be distracted. You know, say how to get the mind in mind. As someone says, I mean, it was Paul in the scripture says, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. You know, something like that. Those things that I want to do, sometimes I don't do. And those things that I don't want to do, sometimes I actually do. Again, from the perspective of our chakras, it can be looked at, or our emotional body or mind and or mental body and or heart can be associated with these energy centers. As we, before we get out into a few practicalities that will assist with these, just another example of what will an understanding of these chakras do before we talk about, okay, how to harmonize them if that's something we wish to do. Again, of the seven chakras, we spoke about the kidneys or the root chakra, you know, food, clothing, and shelter, right? My person has put together a modality where it looks at its heart and its mind energetically and its personality through the chakra system. And briefly, what that looks like is taking 3 of those 7 chakras. My person has associated them with its emotional body or its mind. Those 3 will be the root chakra, food, clothing, shelter, the kidneys, and also the, generally speaking, emotions, just how we feel, just raw emotions. Because these energy centers also have a planetary correlation. And the planet that correlates with the root chakra would be, generally speaking, the moon, that feminine energy of the moon. The zodiac would be Cancer, you see, energy, that nurturing energy. Again, food, clothing, shelter, love. You know, what the baby needs when they come into this world is given by that moon energy, that feminine energy of nurturing, which is that emotion, the energy in motion, which is straight emotion, which men and women have this energy center. So we can be emotional, you know. So emotions is one aspect of this emotional body or the mind that my person likes to call it, as well as the second or sacral chakra, sacred. Number 2, the organ would be the spleen, the inner emotion would be worry, and the planet would be Venus. And Venus generally deals with, right on, give thanks. Let's put this question up here for Ms. Aaliyah. There's an association there. So yeah, with the chakras. And what we're saying is that with the second one, the second chakra, the sacral, visualization, as we like to look at things, image, visualize, see things, right? Imagination. Imagination, running away with me, just my imagination, running. So that second chakra assists with our imagination, you know, being able to visualize, see things, our joy, creativity, right? Which again, has association with the emotional or the mind, from my personal perspective. And the third would be the throat chakra, say communication, because that planet association with the throat chakra will be Mercury, the fastest planet, communication, messenger of the gods. Therefore, we should speak like a god because we communicate from a god. There's communication open, right? So again, from my personal perspective, the root chakra, how we feel, second chakra, what we imagine, being creative and visualize things and our beliefs in what we think and communicate. Throat chakra, for example, is how to get this mind right energetically from our chakra perspective. Well, how do we think? What do we think about? What is our belief system? Again, this is just one association as we come down to looking at how to promote healing using our energy centers, the 7 major ones of the so-called physical body. So again, there's many more ways of analogies of saying, okay, this is what they're, ways in which they facilitate or conduct areas of our life, and how we can look at areas of our life. Again, or even just from straight emotional standpoint, if you're worried a lot, if you're afraid a lot, if you're grieved or saddened because you missed something that happened in the past. Oh, wish it would come back. Yeah. Whatever the general emotion is, again, looking at this chakra can be, and that energy center can be an indication, and we can work to reverse osmosis this thing. Now, how do we do that? Well, generally speaking, color therapy is one of the probably the easiest ways to do it. And here at the House of Enchantment, along with the painting on the wall, these 7 colors, in their own form is represented throughout the space here. There's also the candles. You can get this, each of course, the candles come in different colors. Drink some more water, and you see. And each color can be looked at as color therapy. Certain rooms. I mean, if the room is all that one color, not white, because that does something that's really not promote healing. That does something else. It was an orange room. That room was orange. You sat there for a little while. At some point, something will begin to shift, and the longer you're in that orange room, something would happen, because it's something about that color. It's a frequency. The frequency that determines why this thing is orange, like why it's orange, is a frequency that somehow interacts with our energy centers of that same color. You see, they talk to each other. It's like messages and codes. You see, chakras, energy centers. That's how they work. So color therapy, aromatherapy. You got the incense. A lot of people burn the incense just for clearing the space. Sage, just a good purifier, raise the vibration. It kills, or alleviates the lower different vibrations. They're the essential oils. A lot of times people have the diffusers now. You plug it in, put some oil and water in there, just let it run, just send up the whole room. There's anything you can think of really that has that, natural scent coming from nature, because that's the whole idea. Generally speaking, what the incense and essential oils are the essences of the certain herbs, right? And because certain herbs have certain frequencies, and so when you burn them, again, our sense of the nose picks up on that, and depending upon that frequency, there's a correlation with one of the energy centers of the chakra. And again, just like the colors, the more that we burn a certain scent, like ritualistically, like you have a ritual every day, burn a certain incense or a certain color. An incense and a color every day, it will facilitate change in that particular energy center. Or you can do it every day for 7 days, a different one, because there are incense, they come with a name, incense for this chakra, so this color, the colors go there. So the incense, the colors, and of course, music therapy, sound vibration, and more specifically, as I say, more intentional. Generally speaking, as we look at the scale that we generally use in music, A through G, then it repeats, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Generally speaking, C C, the tone of C has a correlation with the root chakra, and B, the crown chakra. So we go from C to the root, D, E, F, G, A, and B, 7. Because the 8th one will be C again, which would be we said the oversoul chakra. There's a chakra above it. The theory is, like the octave. Like these seven notes of the scale, music scale, 7 tones. The theory is that they upload to this oversoul, the chakra that's above. So all of our life's experiences, when it just uploads. So, it's good to be on this plane to work out our perspective and perception, which for my person is, as they say, at least back in the day, what would Jesus do? What would the word, as a believer, as someone who believes that Yeshua, Jesus the Christ, came to remind us how to become one with God while living, right? That's my person's purpose right there. Comedic metaphysical warrior priest, right? How to become one with God while alive, which comes back down to, again, these 7 energy centers, sort of purifying them or harmonizing them with the correct thinking, with the correct perspective and the correct perception, meaning there are certain laws that govern the universe, cause and effect, the law of correspondence, allowing us the free will, and we all know, generally speaking, if we love someone, regardless of what they do, like their family, like they're just the way they are, they're just the way they is, generally speaking, that's just like a godly way of being, because you're accepting people, and if we can accept like whatever goes on in our reality, right? Oh, is God sent? Is there's a purpose for it? So what can we do based upon this so that, we can have happy experiences based upon what's happening? Generally speaking, that's a general way of saying, okay, well, we become one with God. We allow things to be. We simply said, we're not going to force nothing. God don't force you to, do what you got to do. Just whisper sweet nothings or somethings in your ears. And put people in your place, information here, and it's their free will for us to decide to choose how to use, right? So again, in a nutshell, those are the 3 main ways, right? And how my person specifically gets off into that is, again, about what it just spoke about, looking at these energy centers from a personal perspective. And as it closed out, it just share how it does that. As it like to say, it has personified the personification. Meaning, as one who has, studied Kemetic studies, the deity system, the Kemetic tree of life, things like this, and can make a correlation now with pretty much religion and everything that's going on, having that as the foundation. The personification is the root chakra is a deity, Aset, for my person. And so basically, the attributes of Aset, of Isis, what the Greeks called her Isis, my person looks to incorporate that, looks to be that, looks to say, what would Aset do? This is all said about nurturing, about this, that, and the other. And so each of these chakras, there is a deity, how a correlation, which my person has associated with, a personality, if you will, which in a sense, my person is multi-personality, is multi-personal. And it's suggesting that all of us are multi-person or have multiple personalities in a sense, right? Because again, whether it be from a deity perspective or from a zodiac perspective, meaning that these energy centers have a correlation with the planetary energies, and these planetary energies have a correlation with the zodiacs. So as some of us are familiar that there are 12 houses of the zodiac, or 12 zodiac signs, 12 houses. So that can look at this 12 personality types, and being microcosms of the macrocosms. We all have some aspects of all 12 within us. So we all have a little bit of all the zodiac inside. So again, in a nutshell, these energy centers represent, from whatever perspective you wish to choose, again, from the universe, from a planetary perspective, from nature, because from the Chinese traditional Chinese medicine, the elements earth, air, water, earth, air, water, wood, and metal. Got to think a little bit because they use the 5 elements versus earth, air, water, fire. They use wood and metal, along with that. Nonetheless, something more associated with our chakras. So there's so many perspectives. And again, if you would like more information beyond this, feel free to reach out, because there is something called spirit coaching that my person does, which simply just sessions that allow more clarity on basically, spirit. And this is how my person looks at manifestation of spirit energetically through the chakras. Because there's also even the archangels, the same as their deities associated with chakras. There's also archangels, because there's an association between the deities and archangels. So again, as we begin to explore and really look at energy and what we know about it from what we were taught about it, whether it be from religions, whether it be from the angels and archangels, and or more spirituality with deities, religion and spirituality deals with more so the angels, archangels, and deities or deities. Or whether we look at it from more the scientific, where we look at planets, planetary energies, Mars, hot and dry, the moon, cold and wet. They have these energetic frequencies. And what has been done throughout the ages is a certain personification. Again, looking at how these, whether it be angels, archangels, deities, planets, the energies manifest, vibrate. What is it? What do they manifest? Making a correlation between those and us as humans. Like, we act a certain way. Hence the zodiac. There's a certain animal with that. Chinese medicine. Again, we can go on and on and on. So on the end of this thing, if there are no more questions, because again, we can go on and on about just talking about energy, because that's all there is energy. That's all that exists, energy. Can't be created nor destroyed. It's just energy. It is what it is. Which again, another perspective on life and death. So again, understanding chakras, Jerry, and what they're about, and just slowly beginning to look at ways to harmonize them, is like this shift and me really becoming one with God, one with the universe, one with nature, because it's all one and the same. And they're all represented with these 7 major energy centers within our being. And again, by harmonizing those, we're becoming more in line with nature, the universe, and with Mother, Father, God, the source of all things. And again, if there's any more questions or, one-on-one or whatever, hit a brother up, we're here. That's what we do. Just share our experiences of putting the word to the test. And that's it. We get the word, this information, and he says, okay, well, let's practice. Let's practice meditating. Let's practice feeling. Let's practice going with this philosophy. What it work, what it look like. So, and here we are, just sharing that. All right. Kudos. All right. Well, that's it. And then give thanks for tuning in. And yes, stay tuned for whatever we have coming up next, my person, that is, to just share about its experiences, and putting it in perspective that hopefully will make sense. It could be out there, but hopefully it makes sense. Like, okay. But the whole idea is to become one with God. It's the whole idea. So give thanks for allowing my person to share.